in an in-school or an out-of-school folder, and you just dragged on the pictures and moved them over. Imagine what that was like with 70 and 80-year-old teachers who had no experience having to do this and say, okay, now you click on this one and you drag them to the in pile. So it's taking them 20 minutes to do their attendance, when if you just gave them punch cards, they could have done it in 30 seconds. So administrators said this was a highly stressful thing, because then they had to train their teaching staff, and their teaching staff were so mad about doing it because they had no control over it. So the principals obviously got blamed, because they're the principals and they're the ones that had to deal with whatever the blame is. So my advice is, this is one thing in favor of site-based management, because site-based management would tell you, you do whatever the building needs. You have an older teaching staff that doesn't like technology, you do what the older teaching staff wants. Non-certified personnel, that's the other thing that I believe in wholeheartedly. I think that secretaries need to know how to use all the software and the hardware. Your secretary is such an important hire, and they need to know what they're doing on that software too, because if they don't know what they're doing, that can be an issue, especially if you're dealing with scheduling issues. How many, yet another thing too that's kind of odd about this state, how many of you, your guidance counselor does your school schedule? None? Okay, that's cool. So all of you building principals doing the scheduling in your buildings. I like that. I'm glad. That's good. That's good. We had some people in leadership theory who were saying, well, the secretary does the guidance counselor and the secretary manage the school schedule. So I found that different. So data management personnel is highly expensive. We do not invest much money in Oklahoma in it. We hire recent grads, they gain experience, and they leave. That is consistent across this state. This is an area where, I would worry, because you have confidential information. I would actually pay a lot for your technicians and give them money. You have to have a responsible hire, and the budget has to afford for them. This was my idea. I wanted to partner with the University Graduate Program at MIS that has a 2-year degree. Why wouldn't you do that? That would be so freaking genius, because you'd have them do their internships in schools, and schools like a business, it's like an organization, and then you rotate them in and out, and you have them take care of it. And they could help you make an appropriate hire, and it would give you a rotated internship that could save you money. There are obviously legal considerations. Password systems have to be safe and secure. Student records in the United States have to be held for how many years? Federal law. 99. 99 years. What? Yeah. Wow. Federal records says student records have to be held for 99 years. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of records.
Yeah.
99?
Yeah, 99. 99. Just got implemented.
That's every 3 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
But think about it logically. If you do it correctly and all the student records are digital, it's not like you have to do hard papers anymore, because that would be ridiculous. But how many of you still have hard papers in your school, student records? I'm sure a lot of you do, yeah. Passwords, the book suggests 30 days changing the passwords. I agree with that. Obviously, you're going to deal with crazy employees who open up emails with attachments they don't know, and they give their password away. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. So, line item budgeting is where computing software comes in. Oklahoma says this is a line item budgeting, where you actually need to outsource and cost each of the software item per item per item. It's not just lumped into one general fund like it is in some other states. So, you have to make sure that you're purchasing sustainable software, and you have no way of knowing how sustainable software is. This is one thing that, once again, you want to reach out to Lou Sabina 3 or 4 years from now after you have your doctorates. If you're ready to make a big software purchase, drop me an email and say, hey, do you think this is a good idea? And this is something that I do know stuff about and I have experience with, and I can at least help you with the long-term cost of software purchases. And that's been my experience from computer programming and all these software trends. So think about them long-term. Obviously, you want something that's supported on both a PC and a Mac. You all know that. If it's not supported software on both, that can be a problem. I design all my PowerPoint presentations on a Mac, and then my glorious wife colors them on a PC, because the pictures aren't as good on a Mac as they are on a PC. So I have to design them with the PC in mind so that I get the pictures that I want. So it's kind of crazy. So computer costs are less than software and training programs. It depends on the district. 5 years for PC computers, 7 years, I say 8 for a Mac. If your computers are not lasting 5 years, your principal is screwing up. Your teachers are screwing up. Dell for Business is the best that you should invest in because of the cost and the feasibility. And I'm not trying to sell Dell. I don't have we have an HP at home. So, but I'm telling you, like, if you're doing long term, Dell for Business still remains the best brand of computers for reliability and sustainability for schools. And I have not seen anything change. Computing department should be in central administration. The textbook suggests this. I agree with this. You need to have 1 or 2 people that stay in central admin that handle the computers, and they actually scan them on a regular basis. You should monitor your teaching staff. You should monitor your principals. You should monitor your students. If you have access to technology security, you should have keys and locks to hold accountability. I think the superintendent should have open access, but I also think that their access should be protected by somebody else as well. So they should know what everybody's doing, and they should be able to check, but there should be a check in place against the superintendent as well. That way they don't get any hidden surprises, because that would not be cool. Obviously, you have to have ID numbers on all equipment. Let me give you a good piece of advice for ID numbers that Mount Lebanon did that I liked. Mount Lebanon put ID plates on the CD drives. They opened up the CD drives, and the computer ID plates were actually on the CD drives. And I never saw a district do that, and I thought it was genius, because that way you could actually track and number the computers. So every single ID plate was on the CD drive. So if somebody tries to steal them, you know if it's a stolen computer from Mount Lebanon School District, and nobody would think to check that. So there was ID numbers, and it was in a location that you would never expect it to be in. I mean, if you have the time and patience to physically open up every computer, why not put it on the internal part of the computer anyway? That would be smart as well. If it's unused, it needs to be secure, and it needs to be locked down, because unused media can cost a lot of money, and you need to make sure that access is only to certain people. So, some suitable software stuff, we'll talk about this. Big idea, I tried to do a review system on software. And once again, remember, I'm coming from a unionized state, so one of the things that I tried to do was say, okay, you're going to use the software, you have to journal how often you use it, and you have to review the software. The union fought me, I lost, the union won. They said that's asking an extra duty of teachers. You are not in a unionized state, I tell you, you should have every single one of your teachers that ask for software actually journal it, especially 3rd grade reading teachers, 2nd grade reading teachers, reading specialists. You really need to stay up with them and see what they're doing. Because software salespeople, and I say this, yeah, they're salespeople first, so they're trying to sell you on stuff, and you need to see if it's actually something that's going to work for the school district. Any of you still using Study Island in your buildings? Study Island, I like Study Island. I think it's good, but you have to have a good balance with it, and you have to have a teacher that really uses it and understands it too. Proprietary software sucks. I don't think you should do them. I think single installs are a dumb idea, because then you have to do a proprietary install on every single unit in the building. You want something that you can put on the network, bing, bang, boom, install it, and it's done. But some teachers still insist on using single install programs. My experience has showed me that SPED teachers and reading specialists are the only ones that really should have autonomy over single, I guess music teachers too, right? Because you're looking at the music software as well. So if you're a building principal, maybe eliminate this in your building. You want a master computer that's an expensive computer, and then the software's through the network, and it can be dragged and dropped, and it can be used and accessed through the network. That will save you a ton of money. Equipment, peripherals. Here's the one thing that I have learned, that if you are smart. This right here, this should be in Oklahoma State for 15 years. If this is not in Oklahoma State for 15 years, something is wrong. The monitors should sustain where the computers don't. Keyboards are disposable, they're easily replaced. Mouse technology changes a lot too, but I think your monitors should stay for about 15 years. They will sustain. Purchase ones that will be widescreen, spend the extra money, spend it on monitors, don't spend it on a mouse or a keyboard. It's just going to get destroyed anyway. Keyboards are very likely to get broke. I mean, if I wanted to pour water all over the keyboard right now, I could break it in a second and it wouldn't work. If I poured water all over the monitor, it's probably not going to spark and probably clean it off. So we have 2 concepts that this is what I used to say to my staff all the time. I said we have sustaining technology and disrupting technology. Anytime you're making a purchase, you have to say, is it sustaining or is it disrupting? If the technology is going to disrupt, then you're investing more money in it, but it's working along the lines of, what's gonna change with it, and do you have an alternate solution in place? If it's sustaining, it's gonna be there forever, it's gonna be there for a while. Microsoft Office, your computer monitors, scanners are another one too. I think a scanner is still just as good as it used to be. There are better ones out there with 1080p scanning capabilities, but that's a sustaining one. Your computers are disrupting technologies. Those of you that are computer geeks like myself, what do you buy a computer for now? When you buy a computer, what are you specifically looking for? When I bought it 15 years ago, I was looking for hard drive size, right? That's what everybody who bought a computer was looking for. What do you look for now? Processing speed is more important than hard drive size. And it wasn't 15 years ago. 15 years ago it was hard drive size. I would argue it was also display capabilities as well. Now it's processing speed. So you're investing in processors more than you are hardware, than you're investing in size of your hardware. Computers are smaller now than ever before. Your flash drive is essentially a mini hard drive. That's great, and the cost of them are used to be so much. If I was doing the class I used to teach, and I miss teaching in the business school, I used to do history of computers. We would bring in pictures of the ENIAC, which was the world's largest computer. It would fill up an entire classroom. The thing was worth about $1.5 million. What was the first computer used for? Do you know this? So I want to fire, Matt is my enemy. He's my mortal enemy. I want to fire a missile at him. How fast is my missile going to move to Matt? Pretty slow in the 40s. So when I fire my missile at Matt, what's Matt going to do?
Move.
He's going to move. So what the ENIAC used to do, it used to predict where Matt was going to move to. And it would spit out a percentage. There's a 40% chance he'll move here. There's a 30% chance that he'll move here, and a 30% chance he'll move here. And that's what the ENIAC did. It was the first computer. It was used for military ballistic guessing. And that's one of the reasons why we succeeded against the Japanese in World War II. So the use of computers has changed. The size of computers have changed. The cost of software. Software costs freaking money. If you can save anywhere, you want to cut costs on software. So assistive technology. This is ridiculous. This is another cost because I had to do assistive technology at the elementary schools. If anybody had to purchase a one-handed computer, keyboard, anybody have to purchase any of that in your principal jobs? Those are about quadruple the cost of a regular computer keyboard. If something happens to them, you should take a warranty out on them, but they're expensive, and they have to be assistive technology capable, meaning that your home row on there, I gotta remember this, your home row is F, G, H, and J, and then their typing software all has to reflect an F, G, H, and J home row typing software. So assistive technology costs a lot of money. Are you, in your position, buying any assistive technology? No, okay. So this is something that, when we talk about Oklahoma, Oklahoma is a leader in the weighting system. Whether you agree with it or not, we were one of the first states that actually did per pupil weighting expenditures. We were. It's something Oklahoma should get a ton of credit for. It should get a ton of credit for early childhood education, but they should also get a credit for cost weighting. But you need to build assistive technology into the weights, meaning that if you're getting 3.84 for one student, for student expenditures, assistive technology is going to be a huge cost that you have to deal with. Trust me. I mean, you're going to see that. Disaster recovery, people have to be trained, have a good backup server or computer. You back up every week. The book, I think, said back up on Fridays. I disagree, because if I'm a student and I'm smart, I'm going to crash the computer on a Friday, I would back up midweek. But, that's entirely your decision. So educational technology, California's been the leader really of this. What are the challenges for IT that we're going to see? Number one is, how do you manage the budget and how do you fund it when technology is constantly changing? My advice is you pilot new technologies in the high school. If they work, you spit them down. Student information systems, you have to make sure that it's something that's updatable, changeable, and easy to grow. Software licensing, I'm not going to ask you this, but I want you to think about this. How many of you probably have illegal software in your school district? You probably do, and you don't even know it. Where somebody has copied CDs and distributed them, and they've installed software without appropriate licenses. They want to spend $50 on Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego. They put on one computer, whoops, there's no protection on it. I can copy it. I can put it on computer 2, computer 3, computer 4. There's no licensing agreement. That can be an issue. Network security, that's all in the personnel you hire, and same with staff email account management as well. So I did the 2 chapters I cared about the most first. So we're going to break until 6:15 Verizon time at 6:06. But then I'm going to go back and I'm going to do the quicker chapters. So I wanted to cover the 2 things that I cared about the most since you're writing papers on them.